Hi, everyone. Micah here with Fluency Corp. And today we have as our HR leadership guest, Maria Celani Dominguez. Yes?
Thank you. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. My year teaching English in Campeche, Mexico.
I love it.
I try. I try. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's
Thank
an
you.
honor.
Right back at you. Excited.
Awesome. So I would love to know where you're located, where you work right now, and kind of what you do.
Sure. I am in Austin, Texas. I'm going, which I should have already done, is turn my phone off. I'm in Austin, Texas. I work for Maximus. We are a company that helps governments help people, and through various contracts all over the world.
Oh,
Essentially,
wow.
we help women and children. Most of our programs are focused on that. And I manage the global mobility and immigration part of our business.
Okay,
And that,
wonderful. Can you
mhm.
give me an example of one of the programs
Yeah.
for the women and children?
One of the things I'm probably most excited about this, we started this up last year, and it's taken a life of its own, which I'm very happy about. Is we have a very strong, robust work abroad program for our employees, and so we take it on a case by case basis. We don't have this blanket policy like you can go 30 days anywhere in the world. We really look at it case by case, and sometimes we've been able to grant people 6 months in Spain, and
Wow.
and so we've really been able to expand our benefits for our employees that way. It's been really wonderful, and my leadership has been very supportive.
And tell me more about what Maximus does. I know you said programs. I know you said, uh-huh.
So basically, we work with local governments, federal agencies all over the world, to administrate, manage, or we will consult on health and human services. For example, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, about 8 or 9 years ago, we started a back to work program for the local Saudi women. And we
Wow.
had a little office, yeah, in a mall. And women would come in and say, "Hey, I want to get back to work." And we would assist them in that. And that has expanded to now the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is triaging all their citizens, and they're putting them in 3 different departments, and they're saying, okay, you're too old or infirmed or handicapped and you won't be able to work, and so we're going to set up because everyone gets some kind of assistance, right? And so we're saying we're going to continue on your assistance plan and cater that to the best of our abilities to make your life better. You are not educated, but you can work. And so we are going to put this group into some kind of educational trajectory for your career, your choice, whatever that would be. And then over here, you're very highly educated, you're underutilized, and we have positions ready for you now. So that's something Maximus is helping them do, is triage their population so that they can start this brand new program for their citizens.
This is such an interesting niche. Like,
It
this is
is.
it's fascinating. Can you give
It
me an
is.
example of another program as well? Not to put you on the spot. You can.
No, I'll tell you what the program I started on about 11 years ago.
Oh, perfect.
I was a stay-at-home mom, and with my kiddo, I'd quit my paralegal job, and I was at home, and my sister's friend was opening up a call center for Maximus, the company I work for. And she goes, God, I need someone really detail oriented, and I need this. And my sister said, my sister can do it. She's at home going crazy. And so I started with my company launching a call center here in Texas. And it was the state of Texas was doing dental for infants and children. Okay. It might have been young adults too. And we had to ramp up a call center, 800 employees in 6 months, and then fire 800 employees in the other 6 months because it was just a year long. Now, we told them when we hired them,
Sure. You knew the plan. Yeah.
but that was my first taste at like launching some public service call center in a year. And it was a wild ride. And I stayed with Maximus after that. So that was one of the programs we did. We ramped up a huge call center, and we took all the intake calls for people that had questions. You need to be sent to a provider. Here's the number. You need to enroll. Here's how you enroll. You have questions about this, the documentation. We'll help you. And so we were just the one-stop shop for people wanting to get enrolled or figure out, if they were covered for dental. Their kids were specifically. So that's something else that we do.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Mhm.
And about how big is Maximus now?
Oh, we're about 44,000 employees stateside.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you're managing the immigration and global mobility. And then you
Uh-huh.
mentioned that you have the 6-month programs, or they can do something like that. What are they doing abroad? Is it like to learn something specific, or what is the goal of these programs? Sounds awesome.
For global mobility specifically, or immigration? I guess we'll start with immigration. I do.
Start with, yeah, I was gonna say do a little of both. And I'm gonna travel while you talk to get my
All right.
coffee that I really stupidly left in the kitchen. Okay.
Okay. So I love this. This is a great example of the new world that we live in. The
Oh
new
yeah, look,
wonderful
here's
world,
my
right?
kitchen, my new tile. Yeah.
I love it.
My bike. I make it real cash.
So
Okay, immigration.
we do inbound immigration. So that's we have people that we want to employ that require some kind of sponsorship. And so they become a beneficiary. We become their sponsor, normally through the auspices of an H-1B
And they
visa.
have some kind of a talent, right? That you need.
H-1B, the visa, the work visa. I would say 99% of the visas that we sponsor at Maximus are for specialty occupations. So
Yeah.
that's talent that's not easily found.
Exactly.
But we do Australian, and we do the TNs for Mexico, and Canada, the E3s for Australia. We've done some L1s for executives, but most of the work that we do is H-1Bs, and then the renewals, and then invariably people want to be sponsored for a green card. And so we will sponsor for a green card.
And what kinds of jobs are these typically?
STEM.
Guess engineers?
STEM, science, technology, engineering,
Exactly.
and math. Mhm.
95% of our clients taking English are STEM. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely
The talent needed worldwide.
on any graduating year, 49 to 51% of the college graduates in STEM are not from the United States. So when we look at recruiting through that lens, it's very clear to see that there's going to be a need to have a strong immigration program and have sponsorship, especially if you want to go into, like Maximus really wants to move into the consulting. We do consulting, but we really want to become that. We want that to be a bigger part of our portfolio. Yeah. And part of that has been and will continue to be our immigration program.
Great.
The other part of what I do is global mobility, and that's just sending people abroad, either temporarily or on permanent assignments. Our people go abroad to launch programs. For example, there will be a huge call center in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to do the intake, right, of all these people. Now, the Saudi government wants us to go and meet with every person in person, and we will, but that we still need a hub, a place where people can call in and find out. And so we will, we will send people over there to set up that call center. Sometimes we inherit projects that are already they're already moving along. So there might be another company that set something up, and for whatever reason they didn't win the rebid, or they backed out. When it's always different reasons. Sure. And we come in, and then we will fortify the structure that they already have, enhance it at our not just our I want to say our branding, which we do, but it's so much more than that, right? Our company culture, our way of doing things, our quality.
Yeah. Really quickly, I just want to say hi to Laura. I want to say hi to Shayla, Christopher, David. Let's see, Shirag. I hope I'm saying that right. And Rob. If you guys have any questions about immigration or global mobility, we are happy to take those. So I just wanted to mention, the people that are watching and commenting. And we would love to hear more from you. So the next part is talking about what is something you're proud of, whether it's an assessment or a technology aspect or something about the company or the method. And you had mentioned what you can do for your direct reports. And so tell me a little bit about why you're proud of this kind of way of thinking of helping your team as much as possible.
Well, I want to first give, this is a big thing I've gotten onto for 2023. It's kind of been, forgive me if I sound glib, but it's been my professional mantra.
Yeah.
And I put it at the top of my list. And I was inspired by one of my direct reports that told me, you tell me a lot about how we do things, but you don't tell me enough of why we do things. And she's an incredibly bright, sensitive, intelligent young woman. And that was just like, I don't know, if when someone tells you something and it just shatters something inside of you in the best way. And I was like, I can do that. I want to do that. Why haven't I done that? And so what I've tried to do now in 2023 is see what can I give the people that report to me? What can I provide to them? What do I have? Well, I have seniority. I'm an old broad. So just really bulking up the training and infusing the why into that training, right? We do things like legal writing. I had 17 years of paralegal work at top tier law firms before I came to Maximus. So we will go over legal writing. We will go over geopolitics. Where are my sources? Where do I find out information about? Because I encourage my team to find out about global politics so that they can be more effective at their job. A big part of what we do in immigration and global mobility really needs somebody who knows what's going on, who knows why it may be uncomfortable for a person of a certain religion to go into a certain country because of the things that are going on in that country, or a person with a certain orientation. So you have to know what's going on in the world to know those types of things. And so that's been a huge part of the thrust of what I'm trying to do with the people that report to me. And I think it's cross training. I have somebody doing immigration, I have somebody doing global mobility. And I said, hey, why don't you cross train? And that way your resume now has both. You're not just specializing. You're removing the silos I had within my own team, giving them more visibility within the organization. So if something comes up and maybe it's offered to me, I can't do it, then I'll say, hey, how about my team? Or if something comes up that maybe wasn't even addressed to somebody directly to me or my team, I'll still reach out to that leader and say, hey, can my team be part of it? Because I want them to have visibility. And when I talk to them, it's about how can I help you fill out your resume and your experiences so that you become a more valuable asset to yourself, not just to Maximus, but to yourself.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's who's the Virgin Airlines owner?
Branson.
Thank you. Richard Branson. Thank you. So my mom is in HR and she has been for like 30 something years. And she has a quote by him that says, train people well enough so that they can leave. But when you train them well enough, they don't want to leave. So it's like, get them ready for, whatever they may experience in their life. But what ends up happening is they don't want to leave you because you give them so many opportunities and training and growth. Yeah.
I hope so. But you know what? I've told them sometimes, there's been moments when I'm sure you've had this too, where they come to you and say, hey, I've got this offer, or someone's asking about me.
And they can grow. Yeah.
And they're like, God, I have so much respect for you. I want to tell you about this, but they're worried because I know I report to somebody and I'll say, no matter where you go, we're friends. And if you put something on your resume that you said you could do that you can't really do, you could call me, girl, and I will cover for you and you will do what you like. I'm here for you. So awesome. Because I actually have an incredible team and they probably will move on because they are, they're superstars. And I want to say one more thing too. I'm looking at my notes, full disclosure. But something also I've been really trying to do with my team is just removing fault-based thinking, shame, fear, failure, negative thoughts about others. That is something I find can take over the ethos of a team if you don't watch it. And that is, it's not anybody's fault. Let's forget about that and let's move on to the solution.
Oh, yeah.
Try new things. Making a fool of yourself is a lot of fun. And you'll learn a lot of things, and you'll grow. So that's been something I've been so excited about. And I don't know if she's listening, but Sila, thank you for the inspiration.
Yay, Sila. I hope she is. And there is something in my notes that really stuck out to me. And I would love to hear about the schedule flexibility, because I think that's something that, I mean, maybe you were lucky if you had some scheduling flexibility.
Yep.
3 or 4 years ago, I was kind of a bizarre person among my friends with my work from home, sitting on my couch, etc.
Yeah.
Walking through my kitchen to get my coffee on my Zoom
Yes,
call. I
yes.
was a weirdo. But now tell me, or should I say the lucky one, right? But tell me now what's going on with that, with you guys.
Well, I was lucky enough. Once again, let me give credit where credit is due. I've been working from home 10 years, maybe, I think 9 or 10 years. I've been a long time. My company, Maximus, my boss moved to remote, and she said, "You're coming with me and you're going remote."
Wow.
And one of the things that, she told me is, "I know you've got a lot going on. You're not making a whole lot of money at this company, but what I can give you is I can flex your schedule like nobody's business." And that worked for a long time for me. That really allowed me to be there for my kiddo, for my husband, for my family. My brother was he is a quadriplegic, and he was somewhat in my care off and on throughout the years. And so that was a big help. And I think, I don't think, I know, and if Kim Colbeck's on this call, thank you, Kim Colbeck, she kind of set the example for me by telling me, hey, you know what? Do what you have to do as long as the work's done. I think she even told me that once.
Exactly. It's how I feel.
So when I work with my team, I literally will tell them, if you've got to go to yoga at 10 a.m. every morning, do it. You can log on earlier. You can stay on later. I'll know you're at yoga, but I'd much rather have you, both the people who work for me with me are mothers. And so they don't have a whole lot of time. And so I'd rather have them refreshed, revitalized, and ready to work. And part of that is taking care of themselves, taking a nap, going to yoga, making a sandwich between meetings, those types of things. So if they can't make a meeting, I'm not worried about it. If they need to take a Friday afternoon, I'm not worried about it, because there's an undercurrent of respect and trust.
Yes, that's what I say too. We're all adults. Get your work done. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want to count the hours you're here. I don't want to count the days that you're not here. Tell me when you're not here so that I don't schedule a meeting,
That's right. That's right. That's
Nice.
right. It's a new day. It's a new time.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. All right. So the next thing that I would love to chat about, let me see if there's anything in the chats. So actually, let me go to this. John says he's with Fluency Corp. Do you recommend sources to stay up on global issues? Is there anything you love to read?
IMF.
IMF. Tell us about that.
It's just a great website. It's the International Monetary Fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Great, because let me tell you, well, part of it is my company. Of course, when we see the World Bank fund something, we're going to want to go into that. Okay. So because the World Bank funds a lot of government, health and human. So I'm watching for my business, right? Where is the IMF going? Where's the International Monetary Fund going? Follow the money. But also they have articles there on what's going on in the world. Okay. Another great resource is the Atlantic. The Atlantic is great. The articles are very, very detailed, intense. I feel like the perspective is really, especially if you're looking for economic things and geopolitical shifts and how those two intersect. I also love Al Jazeera English. Al Jazeera English is hands down the best international news source there is out there.
Nice.
It's easy to watch. You can, it's something you can have running on YouTube while you're working, and you can
Where is it
listen to it.
out of, or who puts it on, or who reports?
Al Jazeera is run by, I think, I want to say Qatar.
Wow.
I think the Qatari government. They have Al Jazeera Arabic, but they have Al Jazeera English. I listen to the English. I wish I could listen to
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anyone is. Yeah, I think
But-
all of us here would do the same.
But don't be frightened by Al Jazeera, because they cover all that. You know what's going on in Bangladesh. You know what's going on with,
Exactly. It's like the BBC out of the Middle East.
yes,
Is that
and the
a good-
BBC is great too. I just find I'm more going towards. I feel like Al Jazeera is a little bit more geared to the markets and the places in the world that my company's
Interesting.
going in
See,
and
and
doing.
I never get to hear international news like that besides from
You're not
the
going to hear it
US
on
or
CNN.
from BBC. And so that really gives a nice different perspective from a really different place. I like that.
Yep. And if you're working in global HR, global mobility, anything to do with international business, knowing how the geopolitical situation is going in the different parts of the world, whether it be a natural disaster, mass migration coming on through wars, those are all very, very impactful things to businesses.
Wow.
U.S.
Great.
companies make in the global mobility realm. That's a great question, David.
Yes. David's question next. Here we go.
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, but I'll do the best with what I feel is probably limited knowledge on this subject. And I'll in the vein is the go-to. Oh, thank you, David. Oh, Shirag, thank you, Shirag. I think a big mistake, and this kind of segues, Micah, into something else that I had told you I want to talk about. That's
perfect.
Looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that affects the global mobility realm. And I would say that's definitely, I don't want to say a mistake that most companies make. I think it's just a rock that doesn't get turned over. And I mean, we could have a long discussion on why that rock is not turned over. But if we getting away from that, a lot of times companies don't look at DE&I through the lens of global HR and global mobility. I think sometimes it's probably a conscious bias. And I think other times it's like, well, this part of our business is global. We have a bunch of French people over there, and we've got Italians over there. And we've got some, Palestinians over here, and some Israelis over here, and Australians. And so it's already global. And so that isn't really looked at. And probably most profoundly, they don't look at the overall population and really break down the data and find out, is global mobility really representing all of the company? And so, and there's lots of, you could take surveys with your company and find out if people, how they feel about that and get data around it. I don't think a lot of companies get data around that. I don't think a lot of companies really look through the lens of unconscious bias, through the lens of the global mobility, through the lens of a global mobility team. There are in a lot of companies
people leading the team, not the people being moved.
Yes, or being moved. A lot of times there's people who are willing to go on assignment and they're not being considered, even though they've spoken many times about their credentials to be abroad. And so transparency is super, super important. And finding, like I said, finding the pulse of the employees and really talking to them and finding out who wants to go, who has those kinds of desires to go abroad, removing obstacles for them, right? That they may have, for example, through the lens of DE&I women, they're caregivers, they're responsible for a lot at home. And so sometimes they're overlooked for international assignments because there's this perception that they don't have flexibility. That's a great example of this happening, right?
Yeah.
And then policy, sometimes people are interested in having an international assignment. They read over the policy, and for some reason, that policy doesn't resonate with them. I have been told, and it's been mentioned to me, that sometimes our LGBTQIA plus individuals at our company don't like the way family is defined in our policy. Okay.
Give an example.
That didn't come from my global policy, but that came from our health policy. But it really informed me that because they said, hey, I'm going on this assignment to this country that I think is going to be a little bit dangerous. And I appreciate all your help, Maria, but I'm looking at the health insurance and I don't like how family is being defined here. So we have to look at that too. Where are we sending these people, and what kind of language are we using in our policy? So there's so many ways that global mobility is important. Another thing is, when you have a diverse population, there comes understanding of other cultures and how people move, how people do business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me see here. David, do you have a follow-up to that if you're still with us? But I will move on to Laura, because I think it's awesome to get these questions. And again, if you need time to think on them, we can skip to one. But Laura says she has an immigration question regarding the grace period calendar after an H-1B holder has been laid off. Do you know when the clock starts? Does it begin after the severance pay-ins or the last day of actual at work? Any
last
idea?
day at work.
Okay. Immediate answer, Laura.
Severance is not considered pay.
Okay.
It's a fringe
so it's the last
benefit.
day that they're being paid for actual work.
Mm-hmm. And 60 days.
Okay. Is the severance?
60 days is the I don't know, the grace period.
Okay. Oh, the grace period. Sorry.
So if you hold an H-1B.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this is your H-1B is current and you have valid work authorization and you're trucking along. Let's say your work authorization ends in December of 2023 and you're laid off in October.
Okay.
So you still have good work authorization. Now you have 60 days from the last day of your work, the last day you're on payroll, okay, to find other work and port your H-1B. And every case is different and every situation is different. So that is a very general advice I'm giving you, but I strongly suggest that if you have this situation, you get with your foreign national that you're sponsoring and your attorney and you go over their individual case.
Yay! Look at that. Immediate answer. Okay, Laura, there you go. And just to say, we'll have Laura on the show next week.
I will be there, Laura.
Awesome. Okay, Laura says thank you. And Christopher says global DEI not only benefits the humans in the organization, but also an equitable, can't talk today, too much coffee, workplace is your greatest recruitment tool through word of mouth.
Lived it. That's right.
Yes.
Truth bomb.
Yeah. And the word of mouth is, I mean, that's the strongest thing in anything, right? Whether it's a product, whether it's a company to work at, people see that and hear that. And yeah, they want a part of it. They want to experience it. So
I agree. Well, and also just what I find with our foreign nationals is I've had foreign nationals say, I got offered more money at another company, but I joined Maximus because I heard about your immigration program. A lot of times when people they want to be heard, whenever we do an intake with my team, we always share our personal stories. I'm a Chicana, I'm a Mexicana, I'm an indigenous woman. I know what it feels like to be on the outside. I'm married to an African man who was an immigrant. I have family all over the world. I know what it's like when you've got to go somewhere because somebody passed away or you have a wedding or you need a letter. A lot of your general HR ladies are like, why do you need the letter? Well, you know what? My team, we know why you need the letter. We know why you need the things we do because we are very close to the immigrant experience. And we know what it's like to be in a place where maybe you're not wanted, maybe you're not accepted. And so we're a soft place to land because we get you and we want to help you. We're not doing you favors here.
I think it's so important what you just said. I heard it at a conference a few months ago. Somebody was sharing their experience about moving to a new country. And she said, the person who was working on my relocation for me had actually moved to a different country before. Yep. So having that experience, she said, really gave her a completely different relocation experience because the person managing it had felt that before. Yeah.
That's right.
It really is. And I know that we can't all have moved to a different country, right? That's not what I'm saying, that everybody needs to be doing that. But it's very like it changes a lot. It's yeah.
It goes to the whole idea of empathy, which goes right back to why diversity, equity, and inclusion is important.
Yeah.
And it's not just what people, I think when people see diversity, equity, inclusion, they may have a visceral reaction because they'll think there's some kind of political affiliation. But at the end of the
Or it's
day,
against them.
it's against
Or
them. At the
yes,
end of the
if
day,
they're not one of the minority or yeah.
it's just a way to connect.
And it is to understand where we're all coming from because we're
Mhm.
like, okay, 200 years ago, you would meet people from like maybe one or two other places, right? Not from 50. You
That's right.
this is so global and we have to change with it. We have to understand that. I remember when I moved to Mexico, it's so simple, but I remember watching somebody mop and being like, never thought you could mop that
Mop
way.
like that. Yeah.
Like, it's the tiniest thing. And I was like, huh. Like, there's just so many different ways to do the same thing. Like,
Was it a third world Swiffer? That's what I saw.
it was,
And
yes,
stick
it
with
was
the
a third
rag.
world slipper. They poured buckets of water
Yeah,
all over the house and pushed it out the front door, right?
I know.
Like, we can't do
Don't
that
you
here.
wish
We
you could
can't
do
pour
that?
water all over the
Yeah,
wooden floors because it's tile and ceramic there. That's
yeah,
just the way it works. Or it's
yeah,
concrete or
yeah,
like
yeah.
it makes sense. But I mean, I just remember being like, huh.
I
Yes.
should, you know what? I need to correct myself here. I think third world is a pejorative term right now,
Oh,
and I shouldn't
yes.
have said
Let's
that.
call it yeah, just another way of doing
I don't
something.
even know how to say it, the developing world, but I know what you're talking
No,
about.
that sounds funny too. And again, if our houses were made of ceramic, we might be throwing water on the floor and pushing it out too. But we have a million holes in our house, right? The water would seep through the wood, the water would go through the sideboards. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. And so that's a simple way to say there are just a million ways to skin a cat. And
Yes.
seeing the different ways. And that's why what did the stats show about DE and I? Like that those are the companies more profitable, those are the companies more, I mean,
Yeah, I was reading a
diverse.
statistic this morning when I was kind of just shoring up my own thoughts on it with some facts, and of course it's slipping my mind. But yeah, they've actually done studies on it. And if your company is either global or positioning itself to be in the global space, and you're on the call, it that would be a great contribution for you to have to your company is, hey, I'm thinking about DE and I through the lens of our global movements. It's such an added benefit if you can be that person to bring that that piece to whatever you do moving forward. Hey, Christopher.
Perfect. All right. I am going to shift us to some other topics. So, whenever you mentioned an intake for the call center, can you
Uh-huh.
tell me a little bit about what is an intake for specifically? I mean, we know what an intake is. We do them for our clients to get to know them
Mhm.
when they need language. But what is your kind of an intake and what is the art of the intake? Because I might steal that.
It is an art form. So when I was talking about when I was talking to you about the intake, it's not call center. It's the intake that we do when we've got a new client, whether it be on the immigration side or if it would be on the global mobility side. So I'll start with immigration since that's what I've been starting with all day on this call. When you do an intake for an immigration, there are many things you have to consider. Cost, because you got to tell your leadership how much this is going to cost them, right? Feasibility. Can we onboard this person? Do they have the kind of sponsorship needs that we can meet? And we also want to look at the details. How is this going to happen? How are we going to put this together? And finally, is this legal, the way we go about this? Because discrimination laws are very, very hardcore and you don't want to break them. So when a recruiter encounters somebody that they think either they have blatantly said, yes, I will require sponsorship. Okay, that's one way on the end. There's two questions you can ask on your application legally. Are you legally authorized to work in the United States, or will you now in the future require sponsorship? Now, some people will say, yes, I am legally, I can work here, but I'm going to require sponsorship. Well, we have them identified. Sometimes they say, no, I don't require sponsorship. After the recruiter talks to them for a while, they say, oh yeah, I am going to need X, Y, and Z potentially in the future. Or I didn't say it, but I do need it. However we come to it, the recruiter comes to us. I can't just get on the phone with that foreign national and say, hey, tell me how you got here. What do you need? Let's work. Cannot do that. We have to show a true intent to hire before we open up that box and start asking them personal questions. So I send them a contingent offer letter. Okay. It's drafted by our legal team. And I tell them this is a contingent offer letter and it's to do an intake for you for your immigration. Once they sign that letter, now I have legal right to set up a call with the manager and the recruiter and really ask them, how did you get to this country? And then they tell you their story. And that helps you decipher what you need to do. Okay, so you've got a pending I-140, you've got an H-1B that you want to transfer. Your priority date is this. And then you can go to the leadership and say, okay, when I go to my leadership, I say, this is the bare bones that you have to do for them. This is what they want. And then I give them my recommendation. Okay, so they want a green card started immediately. They want an H-1B transfer via premium processing. And then I lay out the costs. So the intake is vital, and to take the time to set up that call and get them to sign that contingent offer letter. And then additionally, while that's going on, I get a prevailing wage. A prevailing wage is what the Department of Labor says we have to pay a foreign national when we hire them.
Okay.
So the leadership is going to want to know that. If our band is 90 to 120 and the prevailing wage is 130, then that could be an issue. Now, sometimes leadership says 10,000, we'll do it. Not a problem. We need this guy. Sometimes they say there's no way we'll get the money together.
Yeah.
So we can't hire this guy. But those are all things they want to know on the front end, not after the recruiter's done a whole litany of tasks, right? Yeah. So I always tell our recruiters, contact me sooner than later. Let me find out what you're going to have to pay this person, and let me find out what this person needs and how much it's going to cost your team.
If this would even work before you go through all
Absolutely.
of the process that is pointless in the end if you don't
That's right.
intake first.
And the final part of an intake that I find that I use as an HR professional that I find is very effective is when we get into that intake and we vet them and everything. And at the end of the call, I'll say, okay, now I'm going to tell you why joining Maximus as a foreign national is so great. And they're like, no one's ever talked to me that way. And then I tell them all our legal representation is in DC. We've got our ear right there in the bear's chest. We know exactly what's going on. All of our attorneys are seasoned. We work with small law firms. You're going to get a boutique experience. You're not going to just be talking to a paralegal or an admin and never talk to your attorney or meet your attorney. You're going to meet your attorney. You're going to know who he is, and you're going to be able to review your documents before we submit them. I talk to them about my history as an ethnic minority within the United States, about my husband's immigration story, about my feelings about immigrants. My team shares their stories so that they understand when they join. And then finally, I tell them at Maximus, we don't make things that end up in a trash can. At Maximus, we help women and children lead better lives. Fundamentally, that's what my company does. So when that foreign national gets off the call, they know they're going to get gold standard legal representation, that the immigration team is in-house. Maximus cares enough about them to hire people like me to represent them and advocate for them through the process. And they know that the company they're working for is doing good in the world. So that's all part of the intake. And all of those pieces, whether it be compliance, all the way to the end where we make the human connection, all those things are important when you do an intake for your immigration, for your sponsorship. Global mobility, same thing. Maybe not as emotional or as I wouldn't say that. There are times when things can get emotional, but we want to know where you're going, how long you're going, what are you going to be doing, how much are you going to get paid, are you going to get a bonus paid out if you're how is your taxes going to be affected when you move? How are your stocks, your RSUs, your fidelity account, all those things, all those questions, and going back to DE&I. Are you part of a group of people that might be vulnerable while traveling? Specifically, okay, you're a woman. You're traveling to a place that has a moderate to low risk of security breaches, but still can't be too careful. Do you want to have a training on hotel security and safety and best practices? Would you like to have a cultural training for where you go? And so that intake, while it may seem expansive, every single part of that is so important. Are you handicapped? Do you have special needs? Those are all very, very, very important things. So that when a case is as good as the intake on the global mobility or the immigration side. It's only as good as you care to find the information and find out about the person that you're dealing with. So that's the art of the intake, and it is an art form. And you'll learn. Your intake gets better as you go along. All my documents are living documents because I am by no means, I say expert on my LinkedIn, but I'm still learning. I am still learning.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I have some questions here. I would like to know, and I'm going to see if anybody wrote a question while I was chatting. Okay, guys, you can keep the questions coming if you have any more, but until then, I have a few. Does what you do and your work make the world a better place? And how do you think?
Yes. That's how I feel when I come to work every day. Don't get me wrong. Like yesterday was a nightmare, but I don't know if y'all seen that Instagram. It's like some little story and it's this guy in the background. He's like, if you're having a bad day, just go to bed. Just end the day.
Oh my gosh. I'm all about that. My grandma says take a shower and go to bed.
Yeah. So
she's like, it'll all look different after you're clean. I'm like, okay, grandma.
I think going back to the people that work with me, I have forged some incredible friendships and connections. And I think it makes a better place when people get along and people learn to see other perspectives and meet people they would not normally meet. And at work, we meet people we would not normally meet because it's a cross section of where we live. And so that's been great I feel like that makes a better world, a better place, the connections that I've made at work and the people that work with me. And then literally what Maximus does, I help onboard foreign nationals to come to Maximus so that they can help us launch programs to help women and children. And so I see my role, while it may be truncated and far from the full contact that maybe a call center person has that's talking to the mother who's trying to secure benefits for her infant, I still see that my role is important. My role is very important because I'm going to hire that guy that's going to revamp that program or that platform that supports the systems that help people ultimately. So yes, what I do makes the world a better place through my own personal interconnections with my coworkers, to the people the foreign nationals that I have contact with, to the people that I send abroad and keeping in touch with them. Like we have people in Qatar right now that are helping with the refugee support that the lily pad country of Qatar. And one of them is a young woman who's never left, I think, her home state. So I'm calling her all the time and checking in with her and how's Qatar. And she started a YouTube channel on her experiences.
Oh, amazing.
It is amazing. To the executive, the senior, the executive that has moved from Singapore to the UAE, who had to make sure her cats got there okay. I feel like that made the world a better place because I got those cats to the UAE. So
made the world a better place for sure. I know how my friends feel about their cats. We're so, like, yes, do you talk about missing your daughter? I miss my cats. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. It's their babies.
Cats, dogs, lizards. I'm in for all the pets.
Lizards, absolutely. So there is a question that we wrote down here that I just find so interesting, and I have to ask it. So we had written down, when was the last time you felt free? Mm-hmm. And what do you mean by free?
I can answer this.
I love this question. I think I'm going to keep it for other interviews.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. And then I'll be like, Maria Celani, this is to you.
This is shout out. I don't know how old I was. It was 7 or 8 years ago. And my good friend called me, and because I have an obsession with drag queens since I was a kid.
I love it.
And he's been my friend. We were lifeguards when we were in college at this pool here in Barton Springs at Austin, Texas. And so he's been my homie for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. He called me and he said, they're going to have a convention of drag queens. It's the second year. It's called DragCon, and it's RuPaul's DragCon. And in my heart, and we were so poor, my husband and I. I was working part-time at Maximus for peanuts, and my husband had a business that we were just pumping money into. It was like hemorrhaging money. And I told him, I'm going to go with you. I'm going. I didn't know how I was going, girl. I maybe had $100 in my bank account, but somehow I don't even remember how. I paid for the hotel and the flight. I took my sister with me.
Where was it again?
It was in Los Angeles. And we went to DragCon, and I walked in, and my sister looked at me. We'd been walking around the convention floor for 5 minutes, and she looked at me, tears in her eyes, and she said, everyone is beautiful at DragCon. And I knew exactly what she meant. And I felt like I was 16 years old again, sneaking out of the house to go toilet paper somebody's other house or whatever it is, smoking cloves outside of an alternative dance club when I was in college, listening to Depeche Mode, honey. Yeah. I just felt free. And that trip, from that moment on, I came home and I was like, I will only wash dishes when I want to wash dishes. I will only clean this bathroom when I want to. I will only do things when I feel like I want to do them. I am no longer going to put myself in shackles, put chains on myself. I'm doing it to myself. And I told my husband, I'm not the same woman. Luckily, he still want to stay with me. And I'm going to be cooking when I want to cook. And I'm going to be.
You're like, we're having a dirty kitchen and a dirty bathroom. Hope you want to stay.
And I'm taking girls' trips. I was like, this will not be the last trip I take. And that's
it's so important.
That's not the last time I felt free, but that was the trigger for me to understand that I make myself free by the choices I make. And sometimes you have to just say, work can happen another day. Family can happen another day. Today, what happens is me and what I want.
Absolutely. Oh, I feel so inspired. Thank you.
Yes, do it.
Okay. Yeah, that was wonderful. I would love anyone else that is listening to say when they last felt free. I think I'd have to think on that one. I think off the top of my head,
answers. I would love to hear answers.
I would love to hear answers too.
Sorry, I got allergies, kiddos. I'm not crying.
No, I know. Me too. I'm trying not to blow my nose on camera. I'm going to hold out for 3 more minutes. Okay. Another question that really stood out to me is, how has your identity as an indigenous Chicana affected your work, please? Because I would really like to hear about that. And this will be our last question before we wrap up.
Awesome.
If anyone has a question.
Feeling othered.
Can you give me examples? Because I think sometimes people don't understand that, or
many ways. One way is very blatant. I remember I was staying at a house and they had a multi-tiered house, and the dad was coming into the kitchen and didn't know I was in the kitchen, and we were making nachos, and he said, it smells like Mexicans in here.
Good Lord.
And then he came down and saw me and was like, sorry. So things like that. I had a lot of those things. You don't look Mexican. You don't talk Mexican. And they thought it was a compliment that I had adjacency to whiteness.
Yeah.
But they didn't know, and it's not their fault, is that I was proud of being Mexican. I even had somebody say, can I say that, Mexican? Like, she thought Mexican was a bad word. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, because that's what I am. So you could say it. Like, it's cool.
Literally what I
am. So like having people say bad things about, even in my own, even some some Mexicans that are more adjacent to whiteness would put down Indians.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But I was indigenous. So I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Or they'd be like, ooh, that's güerita, sus ojos son verde. Like, oh, you're light. Ooh, you've got green eyes. Yeah. Well, that's not a compliment to me. That's insulting to my grandparents and my family and all the people I've come from. So those blatant things will make you feel othered, but other things can make you feel othered that are unspoken, things that you're not supposed to talk about, because it makes the majority of the people around you uncomfortable. So there'll be very glaring, horrible truths that your people are living that you not dare share with some of your closest friends because they couldn't handle it. Then you just be the angry person. Or why are you mentioning that? That's unpleasant. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Please be quiet. And I've had that. And I've recently, now that I'm in my 50s and all this, the world is changing and I'm feeling emboldened, I had some friendships where they would say something about their cleaning lady. You know, a friend of mine went to her school and some of the little girls said, "Oh, your mom looks older," because she and I had our kids older. And she said, "Well, your mother looks younger because you're Mexican and you all have kids when you're 16. And she told me this and was laughing. And I was like, that's not cool to say that to me. And she was really upset. And she goes, "You know what I mean? You know who I am." And I was like, not cool, still not cool. Before I would not have been felt comfortable to say that. So feeling othered, yes, it's a deep thing. And talk to anyone who's felt it and they'll tell you. And it could be anything. It could be for being fat, handicapped. There's so many, and I'm also fat too. That's an added layer.
Yeah.
But fat and femme, everybody's favorite. But it is if you felt othered, and it could be a woman. It could be a woman in a boardroom full of men. You're going to feel othered.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Maria, thank you so much. Does anyone have any last question? This has been wonderful, and I am definitely going to think about what will make me feel as free as you felt at that drag queen convention. I'm definitely going to think on that. I feel really, really free when I feel like a kid riding my bike down the street.
Yes.
That's like a win for me. That's like the first thing I think of. And then when I'm traveling and I don't know where I am.
Yes.
And I'm just like wandering. Like last year, we were just like, my daughter and I, she was 9 months old, and we were just like wandering the streets of Paris. Like, don't know where I am. Stopping for a crepe, stopping for, you know, whatever we wanted, falling asleep in the stroller and just wandering.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love it. That conjures up images immediately. I love that.
Yeah. And we always had with us a package of raspberries. So all day long, we were just eating raspberries that we bought from the markets. Thank you so much, Maria. Magical. And I really hope to see you in Austin.
Yes,
we're not that far from each other. So I'd love to just get to know you more. And everybody, just a reminder, we do have Spanish for HR free classes that we do. The next one is tomorrow.
Can you send me that link?
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely send you that link. I should be posting it right now, but I wasn't ready. So we will definitely send anyone that link that wants to. We'll put it in the comments. There we go. We'll put it in the comments. And then I don't think it's tomorrow, but we have advanced English for business. And so that can be like idioms, phrasal verbs, tricky topics with nuances if English is not your first language. So I know I mess up things in Spanish in my business meetings all the time. So I would love a Spanish business class. So, all right, Maria, thank you.
Thank you
so much. Absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.